Okay, so start with, so what's the opportunity? What's the opportunity for you as the broker to work with AAAtraq? We have a program called AAAtraq Continuous Protection. We'll go through that in detail, but let's look at the opportunity to you. So the first point of this, the market need is considerable. It's, across your sort of insured and even for new clients, there is a massive market need for this, and we'll show you why in a moment. But today, and when you see the figures, you'll probably think this is sort of, completely unknown. How could it be so much? But really, there is billions being wasted in this. So there's the opportunity to save this money. And as the final part of what we've done with our system, I've been working with Gallagher for a couple of years now, is we've made it that it's as automated as we can. It's pretty much admin free. It takes under sort of 3 minutes to deploy a service for your insured. We'd like to say admin free, but there's still, you still have to log on and sort of put the client in, but it's sort of not very difficult, no paperwork. Okay, why is this important? And why has this come about? Okay, so the first and probably the key point of this, there's a legal requirement where you're probably aware of the, Americans with Disabilities Act. Lots of people are aware of and made modifications to buildings for physical accommodation, things like curb cuts, lift buttons. Probably, I don't know, depending how long you've been in the industry, you may remember a number of years ago where people were even sort of getting into care homes on the premise of, their car had broken down before mobile phones, and they were going and measuring the height of light switches and issuing claims. We've sort of moved on now with the digital arena, and in the same way that buildings have to accommodate, so do websites. So there's a law behind this. Unfortunately, and we'll show you how to do this as well, it takes less than a minute. It takes 60 seconds to show the scale of risk. And probably one you've heard before, today's problem is being left in it's really down to how organisations are dealing with it. They see this ADA, this web, this online stuff as an IT problem, reacting to the problem, where really, until people take a risk management approach, which is what we're going to talk about, then they're going to continually spend money, be sued, and things won't improve. Okay, so that's a sort of introduction. Yeah, you may know Mike McHugh, one of our sort of advocates of the service, dealing a lot in the pools in sort of Midwest. Really, if people don't grab hold of this now, this could even develop cyber. Okay, so what's it worth? Sort of where are we with this? What's the sort of scales? Well, let's look at the sort of how much clients are wasting at the moment, what sort of costs are, where they are, right? In sort of working with them and deploying our service, the savings are significant. We can remove, we say we remove risk, but nothing is 100%. And really say, well, actually, yes, people talk about this with cyber, but really the difference between here and what we offer and cyber is cyber, you're always playing catch up. We can actually remove the risk, follow a process, ensure you're covered. And then the key is in following that process is how much more efficient you can be. The figures are stark. And then what's it worth to you? Well, actually, you may have heard about this program across Gallagher for a few years. The key difference now is there's now commissions. You can earn, it's good earnings to be had out of this, as well as saving your clients a lot of money, and you're earning. Okay, so let's have a look at some examples. Okay, so if you work in the general market, let's say you work in the small to medium businesses, sort of average couple of hundred employees. You might have sort of 100 clients. The exposure for a client is nearly 400,000 on this. When they look at it's typically got about 7 websites. They look at sort of the average cost of a demand and the cost of compliance. There's significant exposure. And our service really, when you look at it, it's what you say about will save them a lot of money and provide them cover. There's also a decent earnings for yourself. You could earn 100,000 if all your clients signed up. Now we can't forecast how many clients or what percentage of clients, but really, up to yourself to say, well, actually, I'd like half of my clients to sign up, etc. The need's ubiquitous. Every client is going to have this in the same way they have coverage for things. The same way they have physical ADA coverage, they're going to need, online ADA coverage. And at the moment, it's probably even more important. Now let's look at pools. So the average pool's exposure, and this is taking a medium-sized pool with about sort of 300 members. Their exposure is over $12.5 million. And what we can do in working with pools, and we can share some example benchmarks where we've actually audited the whole pool, and it's surprising, the sort of just the sheer lack of compliance across. And this is what these sort of, the drive-by lawyers and the scale problem is. So you've got a service which is sort of very, very comparable in terms of savings and value to them. One other area you might work in might be higher ed. So let's say you look after 2 universities. The average sort of large university will have about 500 websites. The market's there and the market needs there, and we'll show you how to sort of demonstrate the market need. Okay, so a bit of background. I touched on it briefly, but organisations can't discriminate online. It's easy to see physical accommodation, wheelchair ramps, things like that, curb cuts. It's not so easy to see online, but it's a legal requirement. And you've probably heard there are many, many cases. Do a web search for ADA litigation, ADA website lawsuits. I mean, if you're in education, there's even dedicated websites which cover just the sheer scale of litigation. And also, it's indiscriminate. We've got examples of bicycle shops, but we'll share a lot of this with you. We're not trying to give you everything today. Bicycle shops, people who are blind can't ride a bike. Well, they've all been in a state of attacks in sort of California. Okay, so what is the key problem, and where are we with this? Well, actually, I suppose you look at this in reality. 7 out of 10 organisations think they're okay, or been told they're okay, or want to believe they're okay. That's sort of But then you look at the reality. And we'll show you how to prove this. Majority are actually not. There's quite a disparity there. Okay, and if they fail the law, it's a risk. But this risk is actually unnecessary. You're not in a situation where you can't deal with this. There are set laws, set rules, set requirements, and that's what we help your insured deal with and manage. And actually, in doing that, you're going to remove this risk, and the risk is repeated litigation. You can get sued once, but the chances are once you start getting sued, we don't know. Perhaps there's some sort of blacklist you go on. Sort of, you're on this list of, you've been sued, and once you're on that list, you're going to be targeted. But like buildings, ADA is not an option, and it will become more and more prevalent. And the other thing is actually, the surprising thing is actually the distraction. Once organisations know about this and they try and deal with it, it just becomes an ongoing distraction. They need this problem, as we'd say when working in the restaurant sector, taking off the plate. Okay, so we talked about the scale of this. That this year, in terms of just litigation alone, this is just demands. This is not actually court cases. That's the scale of waste. And this isn't going away. You look at the sort of growth, it's probably one of the fastest areas growing at the moment. Okay, so if we're going to remove this risk and going to solve this problem, what do we do? So, unfortunately, it seems too obvious, doesn't it? You're sitting there thinking, well, actually, yeah, of course you need to know where you are with it. But most people don't. But let's start with, once people know where they are and understand and have got clarity of their level of risk, then actually they can then start to do something about it. But there's no point keep fixing the problem if you don't know what the problem is. So you've got to actually remove the thing that's causing the problem. So you get clarity of your risk, find out where you are. Then once you know where you are, you can start to take action. And then once you start to take action, you can start to remove the risk. But as we know, with anything, all clients are going to need ongoing protection. There are things which will go wrong. It could be a malicious attack, it could be human error, but things will go wrong in the future, which is why the final part of this is protection. Okay, so what do we do? Let's talk about what our answer to this is. Okay, in a nutshell, using our technology, we've been doing, we've put together processes and methodologies. We've been doing this for 19 years now, traditionally in the manual space. We've taken all of our sort of methods and processes. We've got around sort of a database of about 3.6, 3.7 trillion data points now, and we can map risk of a website and then create a process to remove that risk. And then the key to that is then the insurance coverage. So the key is, and we always start with the coverage actually, because the sort of, your clients are at risk right now. The ones that fail are at risk right now. And actually, the key to removing that risk is where you start. So start with, you put them on the system and make sure they're immediately covered. It doesn't take very long, there's no paperwork. It takes, say, about 3 minutes and they're immediately covered. Then our system will actually look at what they're doing, look at their site, or say multiple cases. Firstly, there's the main site, then typically, say, small to medium business will have 7. I mean, what's amazing actually is the scale of sites, the sort of, even in education, so we talked about education a bit, But we've been doing quite a lot of work with pools, and the sort of, we've only got one website, and then you find they've got 7 to 12, because they've put so many services online, especially post-COVID. And so what they need is a plan, because each website's going to be different. So they need a plan for each website to actually understand what the root cause, what the problem, what's causing the problems, and then they can fix it and fix it once. And then ongoing, the system provides monitoring. So it gives you, if something goes wrong, it's an accident or some human error, guess what? The system will send you an alert, but at least you're on top of the situation then. Okay. In a nutshell, it's quite a adaptive image, but the vast majority of people are sitting ducks. That's the reality. Unfortunately, say 7 out of 10 people, it's this false sense of security. They've got to get compliant, and too many people think they are, or they're being told they are. And so really it's about implementing AAAtraq, saving the clients money and helping them get compliant. Now let's have a quick look at, just very briefly, what is the system, just to sort of show you it literally is admin free. There's no paperwork. So there's a dedicated Gallagher portal. It's very secure. You sort of type in your email address there, you log in, you enter the client details. That is the actual form you use. And then you press the confirm button. And that's the service deployed. Our system will deal with the rest. One of the key areas that have changed, say, in the last couple of years is paying commission, but also, we're set up on Epic. So we manage the billing, we work with your local office, send the invoices, etc. We deal with that problem. We deal with that for you. So in terms of also supporting you, there's a whole range of resources. We do webinars, and they can be client specific for a large client where they want to look at their own report and look at the detail. We do general events where we also work with our partners like Wilson Ells and various legal firms we can bring in, or there's renewal inclusions. There's a whole range of materials we've got that's sort of pre-prepared and ready to go. Okay, so auditing risks. One of the things we talked about is how do you actually go about auditing a risk? How do you actually deal with this for a client? They'll say, oh, everything's fine. Oh, we've got IT dealt with this, or supplier, vendor says this. We hear it unfortunately too often. So what we've got is a way you can go in, no technical skills, and 60 seconds. So you go to, and we'll send you the link to AAAtraq, one of our pages on the site. You key in the web address there, hit the button, and then say it takes about 60 seconds, quite often less than that. And then the system will then bring up a report which shows you where they are. Now, the key thing here is this area here. Green's good, red's bad. One of the things we've done is remove all the technicalities. The whole thing is the key people sort of dealing with this is those that deal with the risk have their own system and a risk control program which allows them to understand where they are non-technically. And this is why we've created a way to do sort of understand your compliance score and where you are from a risk scale. Green's good, red's bad. And then you have a number, and that's the client's compliance score. The higher the number, the higher the greater the number of compliance failures. Now, without getting into any technicalities, detail of diagnostics, that's what the web people do. So think of it, it's like driving the car. You can't, the light comes on your dashboard. You don't then try and sort of go under the bonnet and plug into the diagnostic computer. You have a technician to deal with it. Same should apply here on the web. We're your dashboard. We're the sort of risk management dashboard. So you can see exactly where you are. And then behind the scenes, you've got a risk control program, which is taking you through the things you need to do to remove that risk. That really is pretty much it. That's just, I suppose the final part is what do you have to do and how do we sign you up?